They came at me like they were storming Normandy. Clipboards gripped like weapons, neon vests blazing in the morning light, their faces hard with self importance. At the front of the charge was Karen, queen of the HOA, her high heels sinking into my gravel driveway with every step. She chewed her gum loud, snapping it like gunfire, sunglasses flashing cheap bravado. Behind her trailed three others, holding cameras, zooming in on my porch, my old Ford, even the flag waving over my lawn. They looked like toy soldiers who'd watched too many crime shows and thought they were the law. I sat in my rocking chair, mug in hand, sipping coffee black as motor oil, watching them through the steam. My dogs, four of them, sprawled across the porch as if they hadn't moved in years. To anyone else, they looked like tired mutts, eyes half-lidded, chests rising slow and steady. But I knew better. Beneath that lazy facade, every muscle waited for the smallest cue. Karen sneered at them, pointing. "Are those even allowed here? They look dangerous. We don't allow attack animals." I raised my mug like a toast. "Morning, sunshine." The cameras clicked. One of them read out charges like they'd caught me red-handed. Violation number 1, unapproved vehicle. Violation number 2, grass length. Violation number 3, unregistered flagpole. Karen smirked. And violation number 4, unfit animals. What if they attack someone? I set my mug down slow. Unfit? My voice sharpened. "Lady, those dogs are more disciplined than your entire board." Her eyes narrowed. "Don't raise your voice. We have authority here. The rules clearly state." I stood, 70-something years on this earth, and my back was still straight as a rifle. The chair groaned behind me, and even the air seemed to shift. My dogs lifted their heads, eyes snapping awake. "You set foot past that fence?" I told her calmly, "and you're trespassing." That should have ended it. But Karen's smirk widened. She deliberately took one step forward, heel crunching gravel like a shot fired. The others gasped as if she'd crossed a battlefield line. "Don't test me," she said. "We own this neighborhood." My brow twitched. I set my cup gently on the porch rail. My dogs stirred, their ears forward, the lazy act gone in an instant. Karen didn't notice. She was too busy angling her phone, already rehearsing the heroic post she'd write later. Then Rex, my scarred German shepherd, let out a growl low and thunderous. The sound rolled across the yard and froze the HOA in place. "What was that?" one stammered. I smiled faintly. "That was a warning." Karen jabbed her finger at the dogs. "They're vicious. I'm calling animal control. They're a threat, drooling, growling, ugly mutts." The pack rose slowly as one, lining shoulder to shoulder across the porch, eyes locked forward. Soldiers answering roll call. The HOA stumbled back. One whispered, "They don't look like normal pets." "They're just bluffing," Karen snapped. "He trained them to scare us." I touched the faded leather pouch at my hip, where a silver whistle gleamed faintly. My dog's eyes followed the motion. They didn't need the sound. They knew. One word from me, and the world would tilt. Karen tried to laugh, voice cracking. "Proof. They're unstable." She lifted her phone for a video. I leaned forward, whispered a single syllable. The dogs froze, coiled, eyes burning into her. The board began backing up, sensing the shift. Then, in perfect rhythm, the pack descended the porch, paws crunching gravel like boots on parade ground. Karen stumbled, nearly twisting her ankle. "They're trained?" she gasped. "You have no idea," I said. To most neighbors, I was just an old man with coffee and lazy dogs. But once they called me Sergeant Cole. I lived with K9s, trained them, trusted them more than men. Those four on my porch weren't pets. They were veterans. Rex, scarred but sharp-eyed. Daisy, a Belgian Malinois with nerves like wire. Bruno, heavy and brutal, hating clipboards with a passion. And Max, the quiet shadow, faster and smarter than the rest. Each one had saved lives, including mine. Karen didn't care. She marched back later with more troops. 5 this time. Neon vests, fake badges, cheap tape measures. They spread across my yard like they owned it. The second a foot crossed into my gravel, Rex rose, hackles up, growl steady. The man froze. Karen barked at him to continue. He hesitated, sweat dripping. I muttered, "Careful. Rex doesn't like tape measures." Karen snatched it from him, snapped it open with a metallic crack. That was enough. Rex barked once, sharp as a rifle shot. Daisy shot to her feet. Bruno lumbered forward, blocking the steps, his rumble deep. Max slipped into the shadows. The board staggered back, pale, clipboards falling like shields dropped in panic. Karen waved the tape measure like a sword. "See? Just noise." Rex cut the distance in half in one precise step. Daisy flanked left. Bruno lowered his head, thunder rolling in his chest. The air tightened. One man fumbled for his camera, and Daisy lunged, snatching it from his hand, dropping it at his feet before sitting again, unblinking. "That's not normal," someone whispered. Karen's voice cracked. "It's trained to do that. Dangerous. Call animal control." I leaned forward. "You brought this on yourselves. Marched onto my property like you're storming a beach. These dogs aren't toys, but they're not your enemy, unless you make them one." Sirens cut the morning air. Animal control. Karen's face lit with smug triumph. The officers stepped out, poles in hand. But when they saw my dogs, perfectly still, lined up like statues, their eyes narrowed. Karen screeched. "That's the trick. He trained them to fool you. Grab them before they attack." "Sir," one officer asked me, "are these your animals?" "These aren't animals," I said evenly. "They're soldiers. They'll do what I tell them." I lifted the whistle. "Got it. Here's the text you requested." The crowd hushed, phones rising. I snapped once. 4 bodies dropped into a perfect sit. Another snap, and they lay flat, bellies pressed to gravel. A whistle, and they marched forward in flawless sync. Applause erupted. The officers' jaws hung open. "Sir, these dogs are better trained than our units." "That's because they were trained for combat, not cul-de-sacs." Karen sputtered, red-faced, her words drowned by laughter and cheers. She shrieked that they were dangerous. I gave another command. Bruno stepped forward, towering, growl vibrating deep. Then at my second word, he stopped cold, sat obediently, licking his chops like nothing happened. "That's discipline," I told her. "Dangerous doesn't listen. Discipline stops when told." The officers nodded. "No violation here." Karen's voice rose shrill. "They made us feel unsafe." "Maybe you shouldn't have trespassed," the officer replied. The crowd roared. Karen spun in circles, desperate. Phones captured every second. Her control crumbled, her pride bleeding into panic. And then the sheriff arrived. Cruiser lights painted the neighborhood in red and blue. Karen ran toward him like salvation. "Sheriff, arrest him! His animals are trained killers!" The sheriff stepped out, broad-shouldered, eyes hidden behind aviators. He surveyed the scene. My porch, my dogs, the trembling HOA. Then his gaze locked on me. His expression shifted. He pulled his shades down. "Cole?" he said. I let a smile touch my lips. "About time, Carter." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The sheriff barked out a laugh. "Sergeant Cole, damn, I thought you were dead." He strode forward, shook my hand. Strong grip, respect in his eyes. At the name Rex, my shepherd thumped his tail once. Recognition. The sheriff grinned wide. "This is that Rex?" "The very same," I said. The crowd buzzed with awe. Neighbors whispered. The myth of the grumpy old man shattered into legend. Karen's face went purple. "That doesn't matter. These animals circled us like wolves. They need to be put down." The sheriff turned, voice dropping like thunder. "Put down? That dog saved my life. Without Cole and his unit, I wouldn't be standing here." She stammered, But they attacked." "They didn't attack. They demonstrated. There's a difference." I raised my whistle. 4 dogs snapped into formation, executing maneuvers sharper than most soldiers. The crowd erupted again. Phones zoomed in. Someone shouted, "Better trained than the HOA." The sheriff shook his head, smiling. "They haven't lost a step. More disciplined than half my deputies." Karen screamed, "The HOA has authority." I cut her off. "Not here." I pulled out a folded deed, yellowed but crisp. "This property is grandfathered out of your jurisdiction. Always has been." She went pale. "That's impossible." "Not impossible, just inconvenient." The sheriff smirked. "You've been barking up the wrong tree, lady. This man doesn't answer to you." The crowd howled with laughter. Karen turned wild-eyed, looking for backup. None came. Even her board slunk toward the street. I raised the whistle, blew sharp. My dogs encircled the patrol like a living wall, paws hitting gravel in sync, eyes burning. The board huddled like sheep, Karen squealing as her phone clattered to the ground. The crowd's cheers shook the air. One final whistle, and the dogs broke formation, sitting calm and silent once more. The sheriff stepped close, his voice a low growl. "You keep harassing this man. You'll answer to me. And trust me, you don't want that." Karen's color drained. She muttered nonsense, then fled, heels catching in the gravel, her board trailing behind like defeated soldiers. The sheriff grinned at me. "Still keeping the neighborhood in line, huh, Sergeant?" "Some things never change," I said, patting Rex's head. The crowd cheered, victory thick in the air. But I wasn't finished. I called out after Karen, my voice cutting through the noise. "You wanted authority?" I said. You'll see real authority at the next HOA meeting." The words hung like a storm cloud. Karen slammed her car door and sped off. I stood tall on my porch, my soldiers at my side, coffee cooling in my hand, the sheriff grinning. The war wasn't over, but today the field was mine.